How's it going, everybody? Agent Craig Smith here, and recently a friend of mine told my other friend, Plymouth the Cat, that he should make his own video outlining his own dream Sonic game. That friend also told me to make one, so I guess I will. Starting with the story, I think the story should be dark but also be lighthearted at the same time. Unleashed had the perfect balance between dark and lighthearted, and I think they should go for that. But the story needs to be as involved and impactful as Sonic Adventure 2. I also really liked Force's Eggman. He was both menacing, but he was also silly at the same time, which is how I always viewed Eggman. In Sonic 1, when you battle Eggman, there's this really menacing music that plays, but when he's defeated, his Eggmobile starts blowing up and he gets covered in soot, and that really reminded me of like old Looney Tunes cartoons and Tom and Jerry. The story should also have a lot of continuity, because the Sonic series has a lot of games, and they have a lot of things established, but they don't always follow those rules through. Maybe even incorporate GUN, because they're a big military organization, so when Eggman attacks, of course they'll be there. But maybe in stories like Sonic Lost World, where it takes place off the planet, we don't really need GUN, because they're doing their own thing on Earth. I'd also really like to see character development. Maybe we can have Sonic learn that he can't save everyone, and sometimes he does have to face death. Now, of course, he has seen people die, like he saw Shadow sacrifice himself to save Earth, but maybe an innocent bystander could die, and Sonic may have to deal with that. And before you say, well, Sonic's a kid's game, well, have you seen Sonic Adventure 2? Maria kinda gets shot in the arc, and then Shadow gets all PTSD and angry about it, and he wants revenge, and you know. And apparently in Sonic Forces, Sonic was being tortured. You didn't see it, but he was, apparently. And look at shows like Young Justice. These are shows that obviously try to appeal to kids, but they tackle problems that are more relevant to older people. The show tackles death, relationships, and cheating, and you know, this stuff doesn't really apply to me. I've never had these problems before, because I'm like 10 years old, but they're still in the show, and the show is obviously made for kids, but it tackles problems that are more relevant to older people, and that's what I really want to see from Sonic. In terms of gameplay, I'd like to see Sonic play like his Adventure 2 self. Of course, it shouldn't be exactly like his Adventure 2 self, because there are still some issues with the Adventure 2 formula, so there should be some tweaks made. I personally found it annoying that Sonic would stop running when he ran to the end of a ledge, and I also found it annoying that if Sonic ran into a wall, he would do a little bump animation and fall over. Instead, he should slow down and then start running against the wall rather than, you know, completely stop. Now, in Sonic Adventure 2, you would upgrade Sonic as you kept playing. So these are the upgrades I think should return and how they should change. Firstly, the bounce should return. When you tap the bounce button, instead of doing a bounce, I'd actually like Sonic to stop. To bounce, instead, you should hold the button, and as long as you're holding the button, you'll just keep bouncing. The first bounce should launch Sonic higher than where he bounced from, but for every bounce he does, the bounce height should get shorter and shorter. Secondly, the flaming somersault should return. Now, I don't like the idea of the somersault, and I think Sonic should just roll instead. So when you're standing still on the ground and hold the spin dash button, you should obviously spin dash. But when you're running, or moving in some sort of way, you should roll, and that roll should also have a fiery effect around it, allowing you to break iron boxes. I'd also love power-ups to return. Not wisps, but the classic power-ups. The speed shoes, invincibility, and the elemental shields. Because Sonic already has the homing attack when he's in the air, I think the elemental shield button should be mapped to a different button, which shouldn't be too hard to find. On a PS4 controller, the triangle button would be perfect. Because Sonic already bounces in his normal state, the water shield should instead create a splash or a wave around Sonic whenever he bounces. But of course, this wave is only activated if you use the triangle button to bounce Sonic. Because Sonic already has the homing attack, the fire shield is kind of useless as well. So instead, when you press the triangle button, Sonic will shoot forwards, but in the process, create a big heat wave, dealing the damage of a single homing attack to all the enemies around him. I'd also like the boost to return. Even though this is the adventure style of gameplay, Sonic is not that fast in that type of gameplay, and I just wanted something that would represent Sonic's speed well. Sonic would need to defeat 10 enemies to fill up his boost gauge. Sonic can only boost when his boost gauge is full, and even then the boost should only last for 1 or 2 seconds, which should allow the gameplay to focus more on momentum-based platforming. There should be walls and objects that can only be broken by the boost, and there should be platforms that can only be reached if you boost to them. But because you only have 1 or 2 seconds of boost, you have to save it up for moments where you would actually benefit benefit from using the boost. Tails and Knuckles should also return as playable characters. Tails should play exactly the same as Sonic, but he shouldn't have a homing attack. Instead, he should fly, and he shouldn't be able to use the special abilities of the elemental shields. But I think Knuckles should play exactly like he did in Sonic Adventure 2. In terms of level design, Sonic's levels should be based around momentum. Keeping your speed through many obstacles is the key to getting to higher paths that would ultimately benefit you. The stages should also be very open and exploration based. Instead of running through the obvious straight path, you should be able to run off the path and maybe look for a secondary path that may have some secrets or may be a shortcut. Tails' levels should be similar, but of course his levels should also be based around his ability to fly. Knuckles' levels should be very different though. His stages should be more combat based, so his gameplay should evolve throughout the game, because he would have to learn new combos and his attacks should get stronger. His stages should also be based around his ability to glide and climb up walls. The mission should not be the treasure hunt. The mission should always be just to get to the end of the stage. There should also be a very large variety of badniks, and there should be many badniks that can only be taken out a certain way. Maybe one badnik can only be spin attacked, or another can only be spin dashed into, or maybe some badniks would take multiple hits to destroy. I think there should be at least 15 zones, with at least 3 of them being returning zones. I like the concept that they had with Sonic Forces, where you can see how Green Hill was affected, or how Eggman upgraded the chemical plant. But I'd like to see Sega take that to the next 5 levels. There is so much potential with these ideas. For example, there should be a stage set in Station Square, and we should be able to see how it's changed after Sonic Adventure, and there should be loads and loads of new gimmicks, to the point where only the textures make it feel like Station Square. But I want new zones as well, so I think the maximum returning zones should be 5. I'd also love to see hub worlds return in the game as well. The hub worlds should mainly be a gateway to side stages, while the main campaign should only require you to talk to a few people or visit a few areas before unlocking the next main stage. If you're decent at Sonic games, adding up the time to play all of the main stages, and it's only the main stages, no hub worlds, you're just adding the time for the main stages. That time should be at least 4 hours long. The cutscene should add at least 2 hours worth of playtime, and the side stages should add at least 8 hours of playtime. The presentation of the game should be similar to Forces. People should talk to you through a radio, and there should be heaps of stuff going on in the background. But my Dream Sonic game should look at what Forces did and take it to the next level. A lot of the things that people say on the intercoms aren't really shown in the backgrounds, and a lot of things in the background aren't really interacted with. So you should be able to see what the NPCs are telling you about, and you should be able to interact with what you see in the background. A good example of this is, let's say Knuckles is fighting an Eggman robot, and it's a very powerful Eggman robot. Then let's say Sonic runs up to a wall and he's stuck, he can't move. While Knuckles is fighting the robot, he might see Sonic is stuck behind a wall. So he punches the robot into the wall, and that destroys the wall so Sonic can move on. As Sonic runs away from Knuckles, Knuckles talks to Sonic through the intercom and says, "Ah, Sonic, how is this robot not down yet?" Implying that he's still fighting the robot. Stuff that engaging would be amazing to see. In terms of extras, there should be stuff like concept art, music, exclusive movies, and character upgrades that can be unlocked as you play the game. Completing a side stage should unlock you with 1 reward, and there should be 5 missions within each main stage that would reward you with something per mission. But yeah, that's basically my Dream Sonic game. Also, I'm very sorry about the gameplay that's playing in the background. It's terrible, I know, but I was playing Sonic Adventure 2 on a keyboard, and I was also half tired at the same time. And on top of that, I was trying to experiment with physics and all that, and see how far I could get by like spin dashing and jumping, and just doing weird moves. So yeah, you know, I did come across some glitches, and please, don't crucify me. But anyways, that was an overview of what my Dream Sonic game would be like, and if you did enjoy this video, please leave it a like, and if you want to, you know, put your Dream Sonic game in the comments below. And maybe click that subscribe button. But like always, I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.